I'm Joe Ticotsky down in New Haven, Connecticut, and my co host Evan is out campaigning somewhere in hopes of becoming the next Prime Minister of Canada. You're watching episode 79 of Mc&T Sports Report on CHCO-TV, our first of 2025. We've got a full show, so let's get rolling. After the break, we'll have a first as we chat with the father of one of our former guests, so stay tuned. You're watching Mc&T Sports Report on CHCO-TV in St. Andrews. Welcome back to Mc&T Sports Report on CHCO-TV. Our first guest was born in Toronto and is currently the television play-by-play announcer for the Toronto Blue Jays on Sportsnet, as well as the lead play-by-play announcer for ESPN's college basketball games. He's previously done Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN and in 1994 worked the Winter Olympics from Norway. In 2011, he was the first Canadian-born announcer to win the U.S. National Sportscaster of the Year award and has been a two-time finalist for the Baseball Hall of Fame's prestigious Ford Frick Award. His broadcasting partners have included Dick Vitale, Hubie Brown, Oral Hershiser, Bobby Valentine, and currently Jay Billis. And his son Ben, who was on our show last year, is the radio play-by-play man for the Blue Jays. A graduate of the University of Western Ontario, where he majored in statistics and actuarial science, let's welcome in our very special guest, Dan Shulman. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here with you guys.
Who were your favorite sports teams growing up, regardless of sports?
Without question, the first team would be the Maple Leafs. I'm born and raised and still live in Toronto. Not that it matters, but I was born in '67. As we all know, the last year they won a cup. So I was at a perfect age for those Sittler, McDonald, Salming teams of the '70s. Really got into hockey. I chose to believe it was not coincidence that Daryl Sittler and I have the same initials. I thought that was some sign from above or something like that. He was, is, and always will be my favorite athlete. So without question, it was the Leafs. My dad and I used to go to a few games a year, 3-4 games a season. He was a dentist and he had one patient who had season tickets, and he would take tickets instead of money for the dental services he was providing for that family. So
a little bartering system.
Yeah, that's a good dad. I don't know if my mom was thrilled, but that was a good dad. So I absolutely love the Leafs. April 7th, '77, when the Jays come around, that's obviously a big day for a sports nut like myself. And then I love the Atlanta Hawks as a kid, actually. This is into the 80s now. Dominique Wilkins was my favorite player way back then. So that's long gone now. But like as a young teenager, I was into them, and then got into the Green Bay Packers, as you can probably see right there. And I'm still into the Green Bay Packers in the early 80s. But without question, as a kid, it's Maple Leafs and everybody else.
Okay. Now, I know fans often feel as if they have a personal relationship with the announcer of their favorite team, especially in baseball with a 162-game season. Who are your favorite announcers growing up, regardless of sport?
I'd have to say Tom Cheek would be number one. I mean, again, April 7th, '77, I'm 10 years old, and I'm just over the moon excited that Toronto's actually getting a Major League Baseball team. Whoever thought this would happen? And Tom was there from day one. And, as you guys know, radio was a much bigger part of our broadcasting experience then than it is now. There were 1 or 2 games a week on TV. The rest were on radio. So I was with Tom all the time, listening to Tom Cheek day after day after day. So I would say him. And then if you look to the U.S. and God bless him, Al Michaels is still working. I mean, he's been working for so long. He's still great. Al Michaels was a guy. Dick Enberg was a guy I just absolutely loved. And then some of the really Mount Rushmore baseball radio announcers, in addition to Tom, guys like Ernie Harwell and Jack Buck and Harry Callis. All of whom I got a chance to meet later on in life. So it was really special.
Evan knows who my favorite announcer is.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Marv Albert.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've got
terrific announcer. Yeah.
a killer Marv Albert imitation that Dan Patrick ridiculed me a couple years ago on the
Yes.
show. So
Let's not.
I will not pain you with that.
No, we're not encouraging this behavior anymore.
All right, Ev, what do you got?
Yeah, so you were a stats and actuarial science major in college. So how did that lead you from going to that field to pursuing a career in broadcasting?
It didn't lead me at all. It helps me. I like numbers, and in baseball, especially more than basketball, probably. But I can still. I'm still pretty good with numbers, and that helps me. But as you say, my major was statistics and actuarial science at Western, and I graduated and worked as an actuary for 6 months. But while I was at Western, I just kind of messed around at the campus radio station, CHRW, which was a 50-watt station when I started, a 5,000-watt station when I finished. But at no point during my time at Western did I think I was going to go into a broadcasting career. It was when I graduated and started working and said, I don't know if this is for me, that I said, maybe I'll give this radio thing a try. So the two aren't really connected. I'm quite certain I'm the only actuary who is probably who's a sports announcer right now. But it was just kind of the way it worked out, sliding doors moments. I fell into this. My first job was at a station in Barrie, CKBB, AM 950, which is not there anymore, I don't believe. I think it kind of got swallowed up and is now an FM station, but B101, I believe it is called now. But I started in Barrie because they were the only ones who would give me a job. Got a part-time job on the weekends for $6 an hour, and for about a year worked as an actuary not a year, for a few months worked as an actuary Monday to Friday, and worked in radio Saturday, Sunday. Pretty sure I'm the only person to ever do that too. So just kind of the way life worked out for me.
Yeah, and for our viewers, that's the University of Western Ontario.
Yes. We're now
Mustang.
Western University, but yeah, just Western for short. But yes, the University of Western Ontario in London. Yeah.
The Mustangs.
The Mustangs. Go Stangs. Yeah, I did a lot of Mustang basketball games, football games, a few hockey games, and had a talk show there on the radio station.
All right. Now, you started calling Blue Jays games in '95 for TSN.
Yes.
With former Jays catcher Buck Martinez. You also did NHL and NBA games for the network. What are some of the main differences and challenges for a play-by-play announcer between those sports?
Yes, and still do basketball now to this day, obviously, for ESPN as well. So I've got 30 years of baseball in the summer and basketball in the winter, and haven't done hockey in a long, long time. But even just confining it to baseball and basketball, they're much different speeds. And hockey would be more along the lines of basketball, obviously. So baseball, one of the bad analogies I make is baseball is kind of like, a leisurely stroll in the park, or you're on a treadmill, just getting warmed up, just walking. And then basketball happens, and it's like somebody doubled the speed on you without you noticing, and boom, you're flying. So they're very different. Baseball games are longer. You've got more time to fill, but there's more of an opportunity to tell stories. Basketball, you're just trying to keep up with the play. Every whistle, guys are subbing in. There's a lot going on, and a college basketball game is very fast. It's faster than an NBA game. It's only 40 minutes. It takes 2 hours, 2:05, something like that. So they're very different. Maybe leisurely is the wrong word, because a baseball game can get tense and exciting and have a moment as big, if not bigger, than any other sport. But just the pace of the sports are very different, and how much of your information you can get into the game is very different.
Now, the new rule changes in baseball, has that affected how you announce?
I love it, to be honest with you. It's interesting. It's an interesting way you put it. I don't know that it's affected how I announce the game, but I think the product is better, 25 minutes shorter, and I don't think we've lost anything, to be honest with you. I think we've lost batters stepping out and pitchers stepping off, and I think we've lost dead time. So yeah, it's affected it in a positive way, I guess, that there would be times where, even me would say, come on, man, get in the box, like in my head, not on the air, right. like in my head, and you're trying to figure out ways to fill that time when it's happening over and over again. It doesn't happen anymore. So I guess it's made the job a little not easier, if that's the right word, or it just flows better. You're not scrambling as much to try to fill the time. I don't think we've lost a thing, and I think what we've gained is about 25 minutes a night. So I'm all in favor for it. I think it's a better product.
Yeah.
Agree. All right, October 23rd, 1993. Blue Jays fans know this one. He'll never hit a bigger one in his life. Joe Carter, 3-run homer, Game 6, clinches second consecutive championship. But tell us the crazy story of what happened to you while that play was happening.
So I'm in 1993. I'm kind of the pre and post game guy. Definitely, I'm the Jays Talk guy on the radio. They used to have a show all the time. Well, they still do call Blue Jays Talk, but it was a little bit different then. And I was doing it for home games on the weekend or big games. I would do the show from the lobby of what was then known as the Skydome Hotel. I didn't have any responsibilities during the game. I had my pregame stuff and my postgame stuff. So during the game, I had purchased tickets for the World Series. So I was sitting down the right field line, and it's, if memory serves, 6-5 Phillies going to the bottom of the ninth, and I need a few minutes to get up to my spot in the hotel lobby. So I kind of go underneath with my pass, and there was a freight elevator out in the outfield that we could use to get up. And I go in the freight elevator, and it's one of these giant ones with the metal cage closes, and then the wooden door comes down. It's like a movie. And for whatever reason, it just, for a minute or two, it just wasn't working. It malfunctioned. So I'm in the elevator waiting to get up, and all of a sudden I hear this unbelievable noise and shaking, like I'm in an earthquake or something, an earthquake and a rock concert, all put together. And I didn't know exactly what had happened or who had done it, but I was pretty sure they had won the game. And by the time I got up, a minute or two later, it was over. So the first time I saw the home run probably would have been hours later at home and on highlights on TV or something like that.
Wow. That is a crazy story.
Yeah.
Your son, Ben, as we mentioned, was on our show last year, is currently radio play-by-play man for the Jays. Did you encourage him to get into the broadcasting business?
No. And I don't know if you asked him that question, but he'd give you the same answer that I would. If anything, not that I discouraged him, but I said, I was honest with him about, well, what if this happens, or the pitfalls are these, and things like that. He's known since probably he was 10, 11, 12 years old, he wanted to do this. He was just like me as a kid in terms of being a sports nut, just like me. We talked about sport, we still do, all day long, all the time. And he knew he wanted to get into sports, and he knew he wanted to go to Syracuse, and he did it. And I kept saying, let's look at other schools just in case you don't get in, or, what if your ceiling is you do this, or what if you have to move, or what if you're working nights or weekends or whatever. Like, I just threw everything I could at him. And he said, I want to give it a try. He said, you tried. And I can't argue with that. As we already discussed, I was an actuary, and I kind of said, I'm going to give this other thing a try. So he's done all the right things. Like in high school, he did a semester interning at the Rogers Cable TV station, and he learned how to run an audio board and a camera and tape and all that kind of stuff. He was the voice of the Barry Baycats for a couple of summers when he was like 17, 18 years old in the Intercounty Baseball League. He did a summer in the Cape Cod League. He graduated early so he could get a baseball job, after his senior year at Syracuse, because if you wait till end of April, baseball season has started already. He graduated in January. I think he had to do one online course, but he got as far ahead as he could get so he could graduate early. I give him all the credit in the world. He did everything right along the path to get these early opportunities that really helped him get his foot in the door. But I didn't encourage him. Now that he's in it, I think it's fantastic. And obviously, if he was going to make a go of it, I was going to be as supportive as I could. But I was not pushing him. He's got 2 older brothers, and they're not in anything close to this. So, but Ben, from day one, you could see, was trying to keep up with his older brothers, was into sports all day long. This is what he always wanted to do.
Now, what's it like having your son working in the same stadium as you on game days?
It's fun. And to be honest with you, I try to give him his space. If he's talking to a Blue Jays player, I do not go over and interject myself in that conversation. He's got to, and deserves to have his own space and chart his own course, and not have, dumb old dad always lurking in the background. I mean, I may be the announcer for the team, but to him, I'm just, Dad, come on, man, like, give me some space. So, but it's very fun. Once in a while, depending on what's going on, he doesn't live with me, but once in a while, depending on what's going on, we'll wind up driving down or back together, and then we get to talk, or we'll just talk on the phone on our separate drives. home. But it is fun. I try to be as dads can embarrass their kids when the kids are become adults, and I'm at the age I'm at now. So I try to minimize that. And sometimes I just watch, like I'm up in the booth and I see him down on the field and he's having this big conversation with Addison Barger or Ernie Clement or John Schneider. And I'm like proud of him. Like it's not the easiest thing in the world, especially when you're as young as he is, to go in there and just be able to have conversations with people. It can be a lot intimidating. I remember how I was in 1995 and before when I was with the Fan, when I was just starting out around the Blue Jays. So I'm really proud of him. I'm proud of how he sounds on the air, but I'm more proud of how he conducts himself off the air.
Now, any plans to have you guys do a game together?
No, that is the question I get asked every single time. We both do the same job, so we're both play-by-play guys. So I don't see how it would happen. It has happened in different circumstances, unique circumstances twice in the past. I mentioned the Barry Bay Cats, and about whatever it was, 6 years ago, he was doing a game on Father's Day, and he was a one-man show. There was no other announcer with him. And I wasn't working that. I wasn't doing as many Blue Jays games. I had come back, but I wasn't doing as many games. And I said, "Hey Ben, how about if Dad comes along, we do the game together?" So we did a Barry Bay Cats game together, and then he did a minor league year in 2022. He was the voice of the Fort Wayne Tin Caps, the San Diego Padres A-ball affiliate in the Midwest League, and I was in Detroit with the Blue Jays, and I think we flew in Wednesday night and didn't play till Friday or something like that. And he had a Thursday game, and I drove. It's about 2.5 hours, whatever. Drove to Fort Wayne just to see him. I hadn't seen him all season, to hang out with him, and I sat in for 2 innings. So both of those were great fun. I don't know if he would tell you that, but as a dad, they were great fun for me.
Was like an online poll after on Twitter of Dan or Ben?
No, but I'll tell you, in both games, he was much more prepared. Obviously, he was the Bay Cats guy, he was the Tin Caps guy. I was just sitting in, so I did what prep I could. But it was definitely his show, and I was second fiddle.
All right. Well, he's Dan Shulman, play-by-play announcer for the Toronto Blue Jays, as well as lead college basketball play-by-play man for ESPN. Dan's been kind enough to agree to do a second part of our interview. So on next month's episode, we'll talk about all things college basketball. But after the break, it's time for another edition of Small Town Spotlight. And this time we head to a place where today's low temperature is expected to be minus 24 Fahrenheit or minus 31 for Dan and Evan, who still use that archaic and confusing Celsius system. You're watching Mc&T Sports Report on CHCO, and we'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Mc&T Sports Report on CHCO-TV. For this episode of Small Town Spotlight, our first of 2025, we head north. Then we head further north until we finally hit a place called Grise Fiord, an Inuit hamlet on the tip of Ellesmere Island in Nunavut. How far north is it? Try about 1,800 miles north of the Canada-U.S. border in Ontario and Michigan. But on the flip side, it's only 960 miles to the North Pole. You really have to look at a map to see exactly where this place is located. It's Canada's northernmost public community and was created in 1953 by the Canadian government through a somewhat controversial relocation of Inuit families from northern Quebec, partly to assert sovereignty in the high Arctic during the Cold War. With a current population of only 141 residents, it's also one of the coldest inhabited places in the world, with an average yearly temperature of 2 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 16 Celsius. Well, we're fortunate enough to have on our show a woman who's a language teacher and school counselor at the Umimmak School in Grise Fiord. So to tell us about this fascinating part of the world she lives in, let's welcome in Iga Kiguktak. Iga, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right. I know, first off, the question everyone wants answered right off the bat, so let's get it out of the way. What's the temperature there this morning?
About 30s.
Minus
Right
30?
now. Yes.
Okay, minus 30 Celsius. That's a little colder than it is here. And you had told me from pretty much the middle of November to early February, the sun doesn't rise above the horizon. Is that correct?
That's a correct answer. Yeah, that's what it is. We're dark right now.
Okay. Actually, I looked online and I typed in what is the sunrise in Grise Fiord today, and the answer came back, the sun does not rise today. So I guess that was accurate.
We got no sun.
Okay. All right. So now you teach at the Umimmak School right in Grise Fiord. How many years have you taught at the school?
For 27 years.
Okay. And what do you teach there?
Inuktitut,
Okay.
our language.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a favor. Can you say it's cold outside today in your language?
Nunavut.
Okay. All right. I'll practice up on that. Uh, Now, your school is a K through 12 school, but how many students are in the entire school?
34. About there,
34.
yeah.
So it must be the attendance must go pretty quickly in the morning. Only 34 kids, huh?
Yes.
Now, let me ask you this. Does school ever get canceled because of the weather?
It has. It has. We get pretty strong winds.
Okay. So there are a couple times a year where school will get canceled?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in terms of the school and the town, what activities do they offer to students for, recreation, things like that?
Oh, they play volleyball, badminton indoors, and
Yep.
outdoors they do skidooing, ATV, boating, and hunting.
Okay. So the kids are doing hunting also?
Yes, they are.
And what types of things do they are they hunting for there?
Any 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 animal they can find out there is like a beluga, narwhal seals, herb seals, um, rabbits, ptarmigans, and caribou
Okay. All right.
and muskox.
Do you still do some hunting?
Me? No, I don't.
Oh,
Myself, no.
okay. All right. Now, there's an old saying that technology has made the world smaller. Has the internet and like cable TV changed the students in terms of things they're interested in?
Yes, they have. They're more indoors, right to internet. They spend more indoors than outside. Out.
Okay. Okay. Now, how about adults? Has it changed your life
It
a lot?
changed them too. And it changed our little town to get connection with outside world.
Okay. So that's got to help in terms of kids learning about things that they wouldn't have been able to before.
Not only that, it's good for we don't get too much playing up here. So it would be good for medical stuff, lifesaver.
Okay. Okay. Um, yeah, that definitely is something because you mentioned it's tough to get in and out of the area.
Yes, it is. If we get a little bit of wind from indoor on land strip, the plane won't come in.
Okay. Okay. And do they travel much? Like, say, it's school is out for the year. Do they go to other parts of Canada to visit?
Not really, because it costs so much money to fly out of here.
Now, your students, do most of them remain in the area after they get out of high school, or do you guys sort of encourage them to go elsewhere to college?
They go out. We don't have much workforce here in in our little community here. So they go outside of the town and work where the work is.
Now, if I asked you what's some of the things that you love about living in your area, what would you say?
The scenery of between living on land and ocean. We're facing ocean where the animals are and the icebergs are. That's what I like in Northern Lights too, in wintertime, and stars.
Sure. And you were mentioning you can look pretty much right outside the school window and see
Yes,
some.
yes, we can hear them right through the window. We are excited in the first day when they arrive, but after that, they're more like, yeah, they're coming through again.
The whales.
Whales or belugas or narwhals or walruses, seals, bearded seals, big, big animals.
Okay, yeah. So it's certainly a different lifestyle. All right. Well,
Yeah,
she is Iga. Pronounce your last name so I don't screw it up.
Kiguktak.
Kiyuktak.
Yes.
Okay, she is Iga Kiguktak. She's a language teacher and a school counselor at the Umimmak School in Grise Fiord, Nunavut. To find out more about her area, you can go to where else? The internet at grisefiord.ca. That's GriseFiord. Igo, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show and tell us about the special place that you and 140 others call home. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show, and we really appreciate it.
You too. Thank you.
Great job there by Iga. And believe it or not, we're out of time. So that's it for episode 79 of Mc&T Sports Report. I'm Joe in New Haven, Connecticut, and Evan is somewhere roaming the mean streets of St. Andrews. Thanks to Patrick Watt and Florence Mitchell for producing and editing a show that most people will be watching instead of that crappy halftime show at the Super Bowl. Thanks for watching. This is Mc&T Sports Report on CHCO-TV in St. Andrews.